again. Good day. Bon voyage. Salutation. Salut. Whatever. I alluded to something in my last video, which I feel I should give a bit further detail to. That is the pay-to-win society that we are in. I made the point about all these different zones that we have that are now costing you to enter, and that's people's livelihood. You know, I get certain jobs that I can't get anymore without paying or charging somebody else to pay, which means they have to pay, or if they don't, then I lose the job. So that's a big example of pay to win, and that's becoming more and more widespread. But it's not just that. I think pay to win is just becoming the general nature of things. You know, striving to be healthy is winning. And you know, for a long time I've been striving to be healthy or healthier, and you know, what can you do? You are up against it. But like, for example, you should eat organic food, so they say, and I don't doubt it. But organic food is very expensive. In fact, I'd say healthy food in general is very expensive. So there's another example of pay to win. You can prosper with money. You can afford to look after yourself better. You know, even just general rest and so forth. Holidays. These things are good for your health, for your vitality, but they cost. And it's getting harder and harder to do these things now. So that's another example of pay to win. Everything that costs is pay to win now. You know, like, doctors are useless. Doctors are absolutely useless. I've been going to doctors. I didn't even go to doctors, but I've had a need to, and I don't, because I know they can't help me. They're glorified drug dealers, doctors. They'll write you a ticket for some sort of drug prescription. That's about it. They don't seem to know anything else. It's like, try these, have some antibiotics, have some steroids. That seems to be about all they can sort of go to. They've got no correlation between health and wellness. You know, they don't seem to make that connection. They're very disconnected as far as I'm concerned. But I think there's a lot of health practitioners out there that probably can be of value to people. You know, I'd like to see an osteopath, a chiropractor, what was it? I would like to see what they call holistic. I can't think of it. There's lots of different forms of healthcare, and naturopath. That's what possibly I was trying to think of. Just massage, things like that. All these things cost, and they cost a lot of money. So that's another example of pay to win. You know, this pay to win society that we're in. You know, I noted, and it's been noted for a long time, how all these, you know, like the royal family and all these people, they seem to like get to 90s and 100s and stuff like that. What was it? Attenborough, I seen something about him the other day. Was he approaching 100 now? You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that these people of mass affluence get to live to a long, ripe old age. Yeah, what's the average lifespan? Is what, like 80, and they're getting to 100. And that might sound like only 20 years, but that's 2 extra decades of time. That's, you know, that's 20% more. They're getting 20% more out of their time than we are. And that's not even mentioning what they get within the time that they're here. You know, they've got extra time and extra time. So, yeah, I just wanted to further elaborate on this pay to win, because I think it's a term that is just becoming all prevalent in our time. in our society, in every aspect, you know, of our lives. You know, whether it's real life. I said I've picked up the term and phrase from a game, but I think it's becoming prevalent in gaming. That's the only game that I play, but I'm sure that there's many examples of such things. You know, it's a sad state of affairs, really. I mean, greed has just become all-encompassing, and like I said before about the technocracy, I don't think there's anything new there with the greed. It's always going to be greed. There's always going to be greedy people. Excuse me. But what I find troubling is the lack of kickback to it, the apathy, the ignorance, the acceptance. You know, just buying the cover story, buying the lies, buying that it's a necessary thing. I don't think it is. I think it's by force, and there's a double whammy to it. I think that these greedy people want more and more, but I think at the same time, part of their greed and their evil is that they want you to have less, and it's beneficial to them to maintain their power, to keep you powerless. And this pay-to-win society which denies you your health, denies you time, denies you prosperity, it keeps you down. And by keeping you down, it keeps them up. So like that's a win-win for them. Because not only are they reining it in, they're reining you down. They're holding you down, they're locking you down, which keeps them up. So they're profiting from your despair, from your dysfunction, from your depravity. And that is a sad state of affairs. And I think it needs to be analysed, addressed and responded to. I always like the term responsibility is the ability to respond. And I think that is a powerful way of seeing that word. And I think we have a responsibility. We have an ability to respond. So we have a situation here, and that is always the silver lining for me, is no matter how bad things get, and things have got really bad in the last 4 years since, like, you know, since the scamdemic basically came into effect, and then it's just been one thing after another. There's been no pause for breath. We've gone from scamdemic to war in Ukraine to cost of living crisis to zones popping up everywhere and Hunger Games, and it's just non-stop. People, I think that's why people aren't able to respond, because they don't know how to, but every little helps, you know. Even just something as simple as me doing this, it's a response. I'm responding, and that's a little bit of kickback. And if it gets somebody else, just one other person to kick back in some other way, then it's doing something. Yeah? And maybe they'll do something along these lines. Maybe they'll just get one person to change their processing and help contribute towards making things better, rather than ultimately contributing towards making things worse or staying the same. Because if you're not against it now, you are part of it. You can't just ignore it and bury your head in sand and say, "Oh, little me, what can I do?" Do something. You know, do something about it, even if it's just talking about it. What I find crazy in this clown world is like how people are just so averse to anything that actually matters. You know, I mean, I don't like politics. I can't stand politics. But when I talk to people just think like you're talking politics. And I don't even follow politics. Not a political discussion as such in terms of like talking about proper politics, but it's like geopolitics, I guess, it's war politics. But these things matter, they need to be discussed. Why are we so anti having a discussion about things that matter, things of relevance, things that affect us? But we're so, you know, we get riled up about football or riled up about, I don't know, EastEnders or a soap opera or whatever the TV tells you to. That's, you know, I don't socialise that much because I find I don't watch TV, and as a consequence of not watching TV, I've got nothing to talk to people about because people don't want to hear what I've got to say because they want to talk about TV. And I don't watch TV, so I can't contribute to that conversation. And they're not following the nature of things that I partake in, so they can't contribute to this conversation. So there's a divide there, and that divide is getting worse and worse in a lot of ways. You know, I said I love football, but even football, I kind of despise talking about it. I just feel like it's not that important, you know. It's not. It doesn't matter. It's kids kicking the ball around. Why? I just find, you know, I love the game. I love the game itself. I love the sport, the actual sport. But all the circus that goes with it, all the talk, I just find it a bit moronic now. This TV talk, I find it a bit moronic. I just find general society a bit moronic. And I don't like to sound so negative, but it's not actually negative. It's striving to be positive. I think that's the upside down within itself, is striving to be positive in this world is seen as a negative thing, and ignoring factors that can bring about positive change is seen as a positive thing because you're kind of just, I don't know, it's a kind of an ignorance is bliss kind of thing. Once again, it's the upside down. I think a great example of the upside down, and an example of how the upside down has kind of been around for a long time, is 1984, George Orwell. And what was that book? Was written back in like the late 40s, I think. And he sort of, I don't know if he introduced it, but he's sort of been made famous for the term of doublespeak, and like war is peace, freedom is slavery. Can't remember the other one. There's a third one, but basically, like, ignorance is bliss. Basically, war is peace, freedom is slavery. It's upside down. It's the wrong way round, and that's the time he perceived to be, I don't know, either there or coming back then, and that's like nearly 80 years ago now. That's scary, and I think you need to understand these things because that's the true nature of things. They call the time Orwellian, and that's where we're at now. We're Orwellian, so understand why it's Orwellian, because Orwell he literally wrote the book on it. And yeah, we need to turn things the right way around. Stop perceiving freedom to be slavery. Stop perceiving war to be peace. What was the third one? Okay, it's not coming to me right now. It's awful, my memory nowadays. I think that's part of this pay to win society. I think for all my striving, brain's just rotted, you know, because for all my striving to be better, I can't afford it. I have to eat shit. I have to drink shit, and I think it's taking effect. You know, even that's an example of the upside down. You know, I've been perceived as I got children, and I'm trying to aspire to give my children a better life, help them prosper. But it's so hard because they really gravitate towards the nasty stuff, the sugar and the junk crap, and they sort of stay. They kind of don't want the healthy stuff. I mean, they do. They eat bits, and you know, my kids are better than most in that regard. But it's still hard work. And by becoming a pioneer of, as I do, of trying to encourage them to eat healthy and trying to discourage them from eating rubbish, you become the baddie. You know? And how has that happened? How is striving to be good perceived as bad? You know, and then you got like people trying to treat them and look after them. You know, I despair when I hear about parents saying about taking their kids to McDonald's like for a treat. It's not a treat. You're about to poison your kids, and you think you're doing something good. It's bad. It's the upside down. Stop treating your kids by poisoning them. Stop rewarding them with poison. Reward them with health and vitality. Reward them with nutrition and goodness. Start seeing things for what they really are. Stop seeing the good as bad and the bad as good. And yeah, let's try and fight this pay-to-win society, because the cost of living is escalating, and the wages ain't getting any better, and the jobs are going down. So it's going to get harder and harder to be able to pay to win. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. It's just something to digest, something to think about, something to a bit of food for thought. Hopefully a bit of nutritious food, not some junk. Anyway, peace and love. Ciao for now. Bye bye.